It's sharp. Today is March 7th, 2017, and in my spare time I listen to a lot of podcasts and YouTube videos and TED Talks, and I'm feeding my brain a lot of knowledge to understand the dynamics that I am coming out of in healing this inner child, this inner wound of mine that I hadn't realized was damaged so bad. And as I'm listening to these podcasts, they're specifically talking about relationships that, the domestic partner relationships. But one thing I want to share that I'm not hearing a lot of people talk about is that when you pick that type of spouse, or if you're finding that you've got a pattern of picking that type of person, you probably have an overwhelming amount of friends that are also. And that was my reality. When I'm a friend, I am running into a burning house to save you kind of friend. And I, in my mind, had thought that's what my friends were like to me. And what I now know, especially after what I've just gone through, is, everybody's hands off and hot potatoing. A lot of the people who did that were the narcissist. And we're talking to other women who I thought, I had one in this last year, it was actually a year ago this month, whom I did quite a bit of business with, who, looking back now, because once they discard you and then they go on their smear campaign, I was able to put dots together and she creates triangulation so that people won't come direct and talk to you. But through the process, I look back and there were certain people who did that was surprising that I didn't know before, and I was able to get a full picture of what was going on for this particular narcissist. And it was absolutely horrible. She was engaged and she had a boyfriend on the side, and I knew this. And I knew this was not something that I participate in or even want to see. So she never did it in front of me. But I think that is because when she was testing the waters to see how I would accept it, she's wondering, when she saw that it's just not something I accept, it's not a standard, I'm very clear on those boundaries. If that's something that you do, that's something you do. It's not something I do. But she had this boyfriend on the side. She had many boyfriends on the side, is what I found out. What I found out later, and this was the year that I had sold 71 homes in a year, so I was busy. And I am home every night, in bed by 10 at the latest, without doubt, working every single day. And her fiance, she was going out to hook up with boyfriend and other men, because there were other men, and I'll tell you how that story comes together in a minute. She was telling fiance that she was out with me because I generate so much business for her that she has to go, like she didn't want to go. And this guy hated me. And I didn't know about those dynamics and wasn't able to connect it together until after our friendship breakup. But he even showed up in my business parking lot and screaming at me, saying that I'm coming in between him and her and all these other things. And it didn't make any sense to me at the time, because first off, I didn't know, I wasn't aware of everything that was going on, but I'm also not wired like that myself. So I had no clue how to connect these dots. So after this woman and I had a breakup, and the reason why we had a breakup was she hired somebody that I ended up firing, who was a bad employee, took money from me, took advantage of me. Less than 6 weeks after I fired him, she went and hired him. And then when she presented it to me, she presented it that it had to be that way because where she worked made that determination. Well, what she doesn't know is that I had called, she works in a bank, and I had called the bank president and got the real story, that they had actually tried to hire somebody else, and that she went in there and threw a fit and said, if you don't hire this certain person, she was going to quit. So their hands were tied, and she was tied in the sense of when she saw how upset I got, because I said, you're introducing something into our relationship, because I trust her with my clients, that I don't trust, and so I have a responsibility to take my business somewhere else. Because if anything ever happened to one of my clients or their sale going through on time, I would always wonder if it was because that person was somebody that I fired and there was just kind of a payback, if you would. And so this was her decision. And so I have to live with her decision that she has him as an admin, and she needs to live with my decision that I can't do business with her anymore. And then she swiftly turned around and started smear campaigning me. We were in a networking group together. She went around everybody in that group, whispered in their ears lies. And what I know is that when a narcissist is on the warpath and they're doing that kind of behavior, you're best just to pick up your bag and get the heck out of town. And that's exactly what I did. I had told my networking group I had to go to another. The day and time wasn't working, and just tried to walk a high road of integrity. And what I now know is there was another group I was trying to get in, and she reached out to that group and kind of blackballed me and told them things. And it was a great learning opportunity as a leader to realize, there is a responsibility when you're hearing something about somebody to keep an open mind and come from curiosity to see the truth that shines through, because the truth will always shine through. So I went on and started another networking group, and it's doing great. It's doing fine. And now it all makes sense, because this is the way it was supposed to happen, because we needed another group. And I'm very blessed and lucky to be president of that group, matter of fact. So, when I'm recovering and listening and healing these inner wounds, and I'm watching all these videos about people talking about their domestic relationships, one thing that we cannot overlook is that there are probably quite a few friendships there that you are feeding your energy to, that you need to take a serious look at also. I look back now, and it was like I am a narcissist magnet. If there is a narcissist within 1 mile of me, they will find me and be attracted to me. And now that I'm aware of this and I can spot it, and I've got very clear boundaries, it's a lot easier to manage, because I just, narcissism is cluster B. They say 5% of the population. I swear that it might be 5% of the population, but it's 100% of the men I've dated and 100% of the close friends I've had up to a certain point. And I'm sorry, not 100%, because I look back and I've still got quite a few really good, patient friends that have been through just hell and back with me, and I'm so grateful for them. So, no, when you are learning about narcissism and you're taking a look in your life, it's not just taking a look in your romantic life or your domestic life, it's also looking at your friendships. There's some things that you can't get away from. If you had a narcissist as a boss, you can't get away from that. And so you have to learn to deal with it. But there are some things that you get to choose. And, who gets your private time and who gets your recovery time, who gets to lay their head next to you, and who gets those phone calls when you're vulnerable, your best friends. You need to pay attention to those friendships in your life, because I'm telling you, if you're struggling with this now, and another word that I wish that somebody had told me, because I kind of connected the dots on all of this about 2 years ago, February, when I got divorced from my ex-husband. The part I didn't do was, somebody was yelling as I went by. The part I didn't do was figure out and learn about the codependent part. Because if you're codependent, you're still people-pleasing and getting a lot of your identity from other people. And so I would encourage you to also start studying some of that, because it's going to make things come together and it's going to make things make sense. So just wanted to share that information with you. Hope it helps, and hope that you get some insight from all of this. And share your stories and your comments, because we're all here. We're all connected. We're all very powerful. Now go love somebody.